for the Dallas Cowboys, it has been a kind of a bad 2 years for Dallas. 2019 saw them drown in more mediocrity behind Jason Garrett as head coach. So I guess then was the time to finally fire his mediocre ass. 9 years too late. So in came in Mike McCarthy in 2020 during the pandemic riddled NFL season. And 2020 did have some promise for Dallas. That was for like 5 weeks though, because Dak Prescott went down with the horrific leg injury. And then the rest of the way they went 5-11. Yeah, pretty bad. So the Cowboys made some solid offseason moves. They signed Dak Prescott to a long-term extension. They signed some short-term deals with the likes of Carlos Watkins, Malik Hooker, Keanu Neal, mainly on the defensive end. And they continued to go defense with the drafting a linebacker, Micah Parsons, with the number 11th overall pick. So there's still questions that remained on how Dak Prescott would look in his first game back after a very gruesome leg injury. But still, expectations were high for Dallas to bounce back after that horrific year and retake what was going to be a very winnable NFC East, despite, Washington winning that very horrid division in 2020. And, in that first game against Tampa Bay, Dak Prescott looked good. And sure, they lost a very close opener to the Bucs. But, early promising signs for the Cowboys. That's all they should care about. How is Dak going to look? And he looked pretty good, as if he never got injured. So, and you saw this in their 6-game winning streak. Dak Prescott playing at a very good level, moving around, slinging the ball around to the likes of Michael Gallup, Amari Cooper, and CeeDee Lamb, and Dalton Schultz. He's pretty much back to his pre-injury form. The Cowboys rattled off 6 straight wins. Most of them beat the likes of eventual non-playoff teams, but they did rattle off a big win against the New England Patriots before the bye. That duo of CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup elevated the offense a lot. I mean, sure, Amari Cooper was your number one option, but for whatever reason, had a really down year. And then on the defensive end, Michael Parsons and Trayvon Diggs, a force to be reckoned with in the defense with netting tackles, getting a lot of big stops on defense, and for Trayvon Diggs, getting some pass deflections whenever he was not getting burned in coverage. Yes, that was the big problem with Diggs this past season, getting burned. Yes, indeed, despite all the big plays that he made. The problem was for the Cowboys, though, after the bye, they entered a midseason stretch that saw Dak and the offense struggle against better defenses, and sometimes even less better defenses, and that caused them to lose valuable ground to on a top 2 seed in the NFC. And this was despite the defense playing at a high level, but the problem was Dak Prescott hitting a slump of inconsistency that honestly he never seemed to recover from, even when they got to December when they played the entirety of the NFC East. So nonetheless, the Cowboys would still go 12-5, win the division because, well, it pays to be in the NFC East. But I guess they forgot about the playoff game against the San Francisco 49ers because, well, yeah, that San Francisco defense hammered that offensive line and harassed Dak all game long, with aside from 2 touchdowns and the fourth quarter comeback attempt. So yeah, they pretty much shit the bed in that playoff game. They couldn't generate any pressure on Jimmy Garoppolo besides an interception, and Mike McCarthy perhaps made one of the stupidest play calls in a playoff game. He on the last play of the game, when the Cowboys needed to get into field goal range, he decided to call a quarterback run instead of, let's have either Amari Cooper or CeeDee Lamb. Let's have Dak Prescott throw it to the sideline, or throw it close to the sideline so they can get out of bounds, get into field goal range. And I think they needed it to tie the game to force overtime. But nope. Let's have Dak Prescott run down the middle and then slide. Let's have him slide in the middle with no timeouts remaining and less than 10 seconds left. And then have everyone run down the field. And oops, my own lineman bumps into me. And instead of giving the ball to the ref, let's have me give the ball to my center and spike the ball, which I cannot do. What a stupid decision by Mike McCarthy. So the Cowboys lose on that stupidity. And even before then, they were already losing that game. So for the Cowboys, despite all of that, this was literally their best chance. To go on a Super Bowl run. Literally, Dak Prescott playing at a very, very good level, and the supporting cast really shined. Ezekiel Elliott, although he didn't have the best year, he actually had a pretty down year, but thankfully for Dallas, reserve Tony Pollard stepped his game up to serve as an energy boost for him and that running game. The offensive line, one of the best in the league in pass protection and run blocking, creating some open lanes for Elliott and Tony Pollard. And a lot of defensive playmakers, aside from DeMarcus Lawrence and Randy Gregory, as usual. Especially Micah Parsons. I'm not sure if it's him or TJ Watt that won Defensive Player of the Year, but Micah Parsons really was the defense this year with his multi-threat ability as a linebacker and as a pass rusher. Excellent in coverage, generating negative plays, and got some immediate stops and got to the quarterback really, really good. So the problem was for the Cowboys is that they weren't consistent. They just weren't consistent for much of the season, especially in December, where they would have a good game against Washington, but then they would have a shitty game against Arizona. They get off to a fast start against Washington, and then they would start slow in Arizona and never recover. So yeah, it's just bad offense, bad execution, bad coaching. It would lead to the Dallas Cowboys wasting their best chance. This was literally their chance. They had a literally talented roster, at least on paper. They had the talent to get to the Super Bowl. They executed everything. Had they execute everything properly, but they were just too inconsistent. They just didn't do enough. They just didn't. So what do you do from here? This was literally their best chance, and they completely screwed the pooch on it. So going to the offseason, they had to make some difficult decisions because they were well over the cap going into free agency. Their initial cap space was around minus 21 million. So some difficult decisions to make, some contracts to restructure. But some of the key free agents going into free agency included left guard Connor Williams, right tackle La'el Collins, Greg Zuerlein, Carlos Watkins, Michael Gallup, and Cedric Wilson. Now, they did lose Randy Gregory to the Denver Broncos. He initially agreed to come back to the Cowboys, but he's like, nope, I changed my mind. I'm going to Denver. I want to play for Russell Wilson. Yeah, he literally pulled a switcheroo on Dallas. They also re-signed, I think, did they already sign DeMarcus Lawrence, or they just extend him again? I don't know. But anyway, they also re-signed Michael Gallup to a big contract despite, an ACL, coming off that ACL injury. But they did lose Cedric Wilson, a key reserve piece, to the Miami Dolphins. And they also traded Amari Cooper to the Cleveland Browns. The skid marks fleeced the Dallas Cowboys for pennies on a dollar. The Cowboys only got 5th and 6th round picks out of them. Out of the skid marks. What the hell? What the hell? They also lost right tackle La'el Collins to the not to the Cleveland Browns, the Cincinnati Bengals. So the Cowboys lose while the Bengals are retooling their offensive line to protect Joe Burrow. The Cowboys are losing their offensive line to unprotect Dak Prescott. So although they have a reverse cap space, $24 million in the green, what are they going to do with it? Are they going to retool that offensive line now? Because, well, they should. They need to, because they wound up losing a good chunk of the starters due to either cap casualties or free agency. So that's what Jerry Jones needs to do to ensure Dak can continue to elevate his play and not be a Joe Burrow in 2022. I mean, you can use the free agency money. You can use the 24th pick in the draft. Do something. They also have to find replacements for Cedric Wilson and Amari Cooper because, CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup, they're not there yet. they're not there yet in wide receiver 1 and 2 production just yet. I mean, sure, CeeDee Lamb, pretty good receiver, but not wide receiver 1 just yet. So again, risky proposition to give a big contract to Michael Gallup, who is coming off an ACL tear. I think he's a late season ACL tear too. So who knows if he's going to be ready by the start of the season. So the Dallas Cowboys need to find another wide receiver or 2 in the draft, or bargain bin to add some depth at the receiver position. So the Cowboys got what they hoped for in Dak being healthy, having a bounce back year from the terrible leg injury in 2020. But, they blew their best chance. They literally blew their best chance to make a deep playoff run and even go to the Super Bowl. They literally had a talented roster, a stacked roster to go to the Super Bowl. A very good defense and a very good offense. But stagnant coaching and bad execution on all sides led to some bad losses late into the season and to some inconsistency and an early playoff exit to Jimmy Garoppolo. Yes, to Jimmy Garbage Fail and the 49ers. How do you do that? So sure, they can try again in 2022, but with how much they lost in free agency, they may have just blew their best chance yet at going for a Super Bowl in the years to come.